Video number 2 of the day, and it's Derby County's weekly transfer roundup. There's a lot going on this week, but not much in terms of permanent transfers or even loan signings. There's also a contract extension to talk about. There's news on a potential target and also news on 2 potential incomings at the top end of the pitch. Obviously, these are things that we're going to get into now, so let's get into that. We're trying to hit 80 subscribers by February, so it's completely free. Make sure you hit that red button and let me know what you want to see on this channel. So there's some things on the screen which you might notice. There's 2 new players that we're going to discuss this week in Callum Lang and Ronan Hail. There's also a couple of mystery players which Paul Warne hasn't alluded to. Obviously, it's time to talk about John-Jules again and Nathaniel Mendes who signed a contract extension this week. There's still some more news on Charlie Savage and a little bit more news on Cory Blackett-Taylor. So, shall we get into talk on the incomings first, and then we'll get into players who are already at the club. So, we start off here with Ronan Hail, a player who's in some impressive form for his current team, and he's a player who has got interest from a range of League One clubs, with a lot of journalists ruling their team out. There's no particular reason why Derby aren't, and at the moment they're yet to turn around and say that there's no interest. He's a player who I believe is a striker, scored a wide range of goals, and he's a player who we need. And with Paul Warne talking about players at the top end of the pitch, could Ronan Hail be that man? You let me know what you think about Ronan down in the comments. Could he be a signing that you want to see? Is he a player who you want at Derby County? Next up, it's time to talk about Callum Lang, another forward-thinking player, currently under contract at Wigan Athletic. But is he a player who fits Derby? Obviously, he can play on both sides. Obviously, that's an area where we need a lot of depth, because at the moment, we only really have danger from Mendes Lang. Obviously, Kane Wilson is a player who causes a lot of trouble but doesn't really have the end product. Could Callum Lang come in and add that end product to what Kane Wilson is currently doing? Obviously, I'm not too sure. There's been no further talk about this since the other day when he was linked by Football Insider, but it's a move that could happen, and obviously with us looking to get out of the division and get some more firepower, is a signing that could possibly happen. So, we discussed Cory Blackett-Taylor last week. There has been a bid rejected by somebody. The rumours are that it is Huddersfield and not us. Obviously, Huddersfield being a championship side, if they make the offer, I'm sure that's where he'll head. But they are struggling in the championship at the moment. Obviously, with Paul Warne talking about 2 forward players coming into the club, is Blackett-Taylor one of them? There's rumours from the Derby Forum, from someone called Big Trav, that Cory Blackett-Taylor has been shown around more form. Personally, I don't know if that is the case. It's not something which I would expect for a player under contract at another club. If a deal hasn't already been agreed, then I'm sure his other club personally would be very disrespected, and it could cause a wide range of problems. Obviously, if he's trying to force a move, then it's probably the right way to go, but I've not seen anything to suggest that that is the case with Blackett-Taylor so far. Obviously, though, he's a player who I'd be mega excited for us to get in. With his goal contributions for Charlton this season, he's been a pivotal member in their squad and would obviously be pivotal to us and what we have at Derby County. There's a lot going on at Reading. Obviously, they're in financial turmoil. Their owner is willing to sell pretty much anything because he needs to get them out of this trouble. He needs to clear the debts and things like that. And I read this afternoon that Reading will be willing to let players go if their valuations are met. Charlie Savage was one of the names on that list. And with Derby being interested, I'm interested to see if Derby will go in with another offer. Obviously, the offer hasn't been confirmed by Derby's side yet, but Reading's journalists have been consistent with the fact that Derby County are interested in the player. And personally, I don't see any fault in us being interested in a player like Charlie. I think he could be mega important for the team going forward. Obviously, there's no guarantees that Derby even have the right amount of money to be able to bring him in. Reading want all their transfers done with a majority upfront payments based on what I was reading earlier today. So is that something that we're capable of doing at the moment? I'm not quite sure, but I think it's a case of we need to make sure that we structure our deals properly, because we don't want to put ourselves in the hole that we got ourselves in under Mel Morris. So Paul Warne's been talking a lot about two players who are very close to joining. Obviously, he keeps saying he's done his bit. It's up to the people upstairs. And I'm really hoping that these two players that he's talking about are two that I've spoke about in recent weeks. It won't be Connor Coventry from the previous video. I believe he's heading to Sheffield Wednesday. But it would be nice to see someone like Corey Blackett-Taylor, someone like Charlie Savage, like weakening a team in our division to strengthen us. That's something that we need to do. Obviously, we made the mistake last year of not strengthening the squad to the full extent of what we need to do. And it ended up costing us at the end of the season. Obviously, losing out by, I think it was a point at the end of the season after losing to Sheffield Wednesday. Don't want to see that happen again, and Paul Warne has mentioned that being the biggest mistake of his career. Is he going to do it again and make that mistake where we don't really strengthen? I'm not quite sure. Hopefully he doesn't. We're now going to go on to talking about Tyrese John-Jules, and today in Paul Warne's press conference, he discussed Tyrese and the situation. Derby putting an offer to extend the loan. Arsenal counter-offered it, and we've gone back in with another offer. He expects it's a bit of a formality, but obviously until the paper is signed and it's confirmed, I won't be putting any money on it, let's put it that way. I know what happens within football. You have these deals all prepared and then boom, something happens. John-Jules ends up back at Arsenal. He also spoke today about the potential of, if John-Jules can keep himself fit and show what he's capable of, he's discussed potentially bringing him in on a permanent longer-term contract at the end of the season. But obviously, there's a long way to go before that happens. We're also going to talk about Nathaniel Mendes I made a video on his contract extension, which I'll link on the screen somewhere. Obviously, a massive player for us so far this season. He's been very impressive since we played Stevenage away from home. I believe he's had something like 9 goal contributions in that time period. Signed on a new deal until the end of 2026. So it's another 2.5 years. Obviously, at that point, he's going to be 34 towards the back end of his career. Is he still going to be the player that he is now then? Who knows? But I think it's a good deal for Derby to secure an asset for the future. And again, with the first team and the senior players, he's been discussing contracts. And after Dom Dietrich asked him about contracts and other players and transfers and things like that, he let us in on some news that there are a lot of players that are due to hit appearance-based contract extensions and stuff like that. So obviously that will be mega important for Derby County. It'll be good to see who those players are. I assume they are the likes of Liam Thompson, Louis Sibley, maybe Tom Barkhazen. I bet Forsyth's maybe one of them, and maybe even James Collins. So even Joe Wildsmith might be one of them, because I believe he's out of contract at the end of the season too. So that is the current situation with that. There's no news on anybody getting a new contract or anything like that. The belief is that Derby have extended Erin Cashin's contract for another year. They triggered his extension option. That was spoke about on BBC Radio Derby, I believe, after the Peterborough game. But apparently that's going to get confirmed properly this week. So that is the weekly roundup of transfers for Derby County. Obviously, nothing major has happened. It's just a few contract extensions and a lot of talk going on behind the scenes. Be interesting to see what players we do end up bringing in, because I believe it's going to be pivotal to our season to get in the right players, make the right signings to strengthen and bolster our squad heading into the run-in. I've always thought that in January, if you're on that top end of the table, you need to make a few signings just to make sure that no players get complacent. So it's going to be interesting to see if Paul Warne makes the right acquisitions. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit like, comment and subscribe. Let me know what players you'd like to see Derby bring in and what positions you think are important. So thank you for watching this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Make sure to go and find me on TikTok, pictured here, and Twitter, pictured here. These are the places where I'll keep you all up to date with all my upcoming videos and my thoughts and feelings around the Formula 1 and football weekend.